Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. Let's get started with our hosts, Linda McKissack and Dana Gentry.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Everything Life and Real Estate. I'm Linda McKissack.
And I'm Dana Gentry.
Hey, Dana. I feel like it's been a while, has it? Oh, yeah, because I was in Greece and we haven't talked since Greece.
No, and I mean, I know we have to wait for your notes, but I can't wait any longer.
I know. Oh my gosh. I just will say this. It was an amazing trip. It was so good. But I think as much as anything, the people made it so cool. There's just,
Well, I saw Coach Jim Tressel was there this time.
Yes.
And PC, Chris Hodges was there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. There were so many great people.
And getting up and close and personal with Chris Tomlin and Cece Winans. Amazing. Which we'd heard her brother on a jazz cruise. That whole family is just like super talented. Yeah.
And
she's beautiful.
She's amazing.
She's just gorgeous. So,
yeah, I know. How old do you think she is? Do you know how old she is?
I looked it up. 59, I think.
Wow. She does look great. She's so pretty.
I think I looked it up. I know. Isn't that terrible?
That's
the first thing
right.
we do is we look up how old, especially if they look good. That's crazy.
True.
I notice I don't ever look up how old they are if they don't look good. So must be something to that.
So true. I know. I feel like there was something I was going to tell you today. Oh, have you heard of Brandon Lake, the Christian singer? He's younger. He's really, really good. He's got like Gratitude is his song that he wrote. There's a bunch of really good ones that he's I know you've heard his music if you look it up, Brandon Lake. But today, Adam and I had lunch with his mom and dad. They're local in Charleston, and his dad is going to speak at the summit this year. And we had the best lunch with them today. We took him to the post house and picked their brain a little bit about what he's going to talk about at the summit. And then, because Brandon just won like the K-Love Award of the Year, and he won 3 Grammys, and he just has been like killing it. And he's local from Charleston, so it's been really cool to watch. But we got to ask them some good parenting questions today, and so I'll have to share those with you or on here at another time. They're going to do some more with us, but the biggest thing that they said was just acting it out. Like, you can tell your kids everything, but they're going to end up doing what they see you do. And she was like, that would be the biggest thing that I could say over and over. So we just had like the best. It was so good. They're the sweetest people ever, and just got to really pick their brains on a bunch of stuff. It was cool.
Awesome. I love that. I love wise older people that can feed into you. I was very fortunate to have Mary Harker and Judy Johns, pour into me as a young mother, and some of their advice still rings so true. It took a few years for some of it, but some of it really, you realize, oh my gosh, they really knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we thought today we would talk a little bit about some changes. So last week, I was in the region, and I took like a few of our top 10 agents, just a really small group out of each office, to a really nice dinner. And honestly, I think I told you this, Linda, but it was like one of the best things I've done in so long. I was like embarrassed that I hadn't done this sooner. And so I'm going to keep doing it every quarter now, because it's different when you have a big event or like your top 20% or whatever, and you get to see everybody, and it's great. But to just have like the smaller, more intimate group and be able for like them to just have a time to talk and share, and me to be with them, it was just one of the best things. They were so appreciative. I loved being with them. It was great. But one of the takeaways, or a couple of the takeaways that I had were, our agents right now are working harder than they've ever worked before. They are grinding it out. Just hard working. The deals are harder, and other agents are being harder they're more difficult to work with. And they're already seeing downward press commissions, and, not what we're used to with the full commission being offered on the buy side. There's just so many changes. And I went back and found, and I don't remember when we heard this, but at one point, something we went to of John's, I found that he said, don't forget, challenging times are a distraction. But the word distraction is the word traction. And that's actually a good word, because it's pulling you towards movement. It's pulling you towards something, where a distraction is pulling you away, meaning you're losing ground. And we talked about this a little bit at the dinners, and it just is interesting to me to see kind of how they're navigating change. But the top of the top, like the best agents in my offices that I'm like, they're just doing the work. I mean, they're doing more work. They're putting their head down. Some of them, quite frankly, don't even really know about the changes that are happening in the industry because they're like, I just work. I'm just keeping my head down. And others of them are like, yeah, I know what's coming. Yes, I know what I need to do, but it's not distracting me from anything. Like I'm still head down, face forward, like going as hard as I can. And, I feel like we talked to some realtors who are struggling and, they're not doing as well right now. And then you see others who are gaining an incredible amount of market share. And when I think about like, the conversations that we had at dinner, like they're doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're doing the activities and they're not letting their foot off the pedal and they're not being distracted by the changes. And I was like, man, that's just something good for us to remind and talk about.
Yeah. And I've had a couple of conversations like you. I've been making calls to, well, I actually haven't been making the calls. The calls get made to me, as Dean always says, nobody minds being on the receiving dock, but nobody wants to make the sales call.
Yep.
So my calls are set up for me every day that I have allocated that I can do them. I have anywhere from 2 to 4 a day. And it's our people that have been through our Leadership Academy because we have such a great time. I'm like you thinking, why did I not do Leadership Academy years ago? But we don't get to communicate after that. So I said, hey, just rotate them around on my schedule. And let me just check in with them, see what's going on. And I'm hearing some of the same things. It's interesting. The struggle to me when I listen to them seems to be around, they don't know how to communicate with sellers when their house doesn't sell.
Yeah.
And so part of one of my coaching sessions with one of them today, who's a top agent, who's a go-getter, I said, you have to, it's a different dialogue. It's a different conversation. And you have to set the conversation up in advance because they're still listening to multiple offers back in the whatever. And now they're shocked. And she said part of what they're trying to do is blame her for, the house not selling, which is exactly what they want to do. That's nothing new. But most of my career was buyer's market. And so you had to learn great conversations to have with sellers and set them up in advance that you and them are on one side, the market is on the other. And this is how the market will speak to us. And so I also, talked about how when it's a seller's market, you can have a freight train 2 feet from your back door and nobody cares.
Yep.
You get into more of a buyer's market and now you have better not be able to see a freight train anywhere near them, right?
No, it's 3 miles down the road and they can still hear it. Yeah.
Yeah. So condition matters more than ever. You have to learn how to have those conversations, and you have to learn how to have those conversations of how the market speaks to you and what is our best strategy when it does tell us that we've missed the mark. Yeah. And that some properties do still get multiple offers, but here's the ones that do that. They're priced at or below market, or they're in tip-top condition, or all three together. So we got to decide which one we're going to be. And my role is to help interpret that market so that we make movements in the price or condition as soon as we find out that's the issue. And I think no one's been trained to do that. The agent I talked to today had been in the business 7 years. Yeah,
I was just getting ready to say, if they've been in the business, which, what did they say, over 70% of agents now got in the business after 07, 08. So if you weren't in the business then or around that, even the few years after that, you really don't know how to have conversations of like one that got brought up of somebody saying, I just need to know. I feel like they want me to touch base with them every week and I've never had to do that before. And I said, that's because you've never had a listing sit on the market for 30 days before.
Yeah. And, one of the things I always say is, especially when I taught 10 plus listings a month forever, you have to tell them you'll overpromise. Underpromise and overdeliver. You have to tell them, I'm going to communicate with you. Let's say if you say every 7 days, you better do it in 5.
That's right.
Because on that 7th day, the hair on the back of your neck's going to stand up and their phone's going to ring and they're going to be on the other end.
Yep.
And you're going to instinctively know it, but it's too late.
Yeah.
Now you're on the defense instead of on the offense. So much of it is how you set it up in the future, in the beginning, you checking their motivation, asking them if the market doesn't give us the price, but it gives us the time you want. Are you okay with that? I mean, there's so many, and they're just no one's being taught those conversations because they've never had that market to be able to have to teach that.
Well, and actually that goes right along with one of the other big ahas I got from our agents from being at dinner with them. They were all very firm and confident in the agent that they are going to be, which is going to be, this is the amount that I charge. And if you aren't in alignment with that, then that's okay. Like, we might not be a good fit together. I might not be the right person to sell your house. Where I think what we're seeing in other scenarios are agents, because they haven't had to, they don't know the conversations, or they aren't strong enough or confident enough in the conversations to ask for what they're worth. And so then they're automatically right off the bat starting to discount, where, these agents at dinner, they were like, it's not worth it. I'm not doing that. There's no way that I would do it for less than this amount. But their value is so strong. And a lot of it, though, is the confidence that they show up with to the appointment. And that is a game changer. I mean, I was just thinking, gosh, it's just, and some of that comes with experience, I know, but I think agents are going to have to decide like what agent they want to be, and be confident enough and okay enough to say, no, I'm not going to basically work for free, which some of them will do that.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, and it comes down to confidence, and it also comes down to the sources of your business. If they're coming from their database and their referrals, they're not having near the struggle with that.
That's
because
right.
the people already know them, trust them, believe in them. That's why they're getting the business. So it's another reason why you want as much of your business as possible coming out of your database. Those people see you as the expert. They don't question your knowledge about the industry. I mean, the agent I talked to today, she said, I asked her, I said, how are you dealing with the situation around NAR? Are you getting any pushback? And she said, no, honestly, my sellers all totally understand and feel, no, of course I would offer a commission, And I said, well, how are you doing on the buyer side? And are you having a hard time getting those buyers to sign the agreement? She said, no. But I mean, it boils down to how confident are you? And then, and you being willing to, when you get an objection like that, this goes hand in hand with, learning through many different markets that you've had to learn, asking the question, what's important to you about me taking less commission? What's most important to you? Is it about you finding the right house, or is it about you selling your home, or is it about what I make? What's really important to you? And you got to be willing to kind of have some questions around when they give you something, instead of freaking out and panicking the minute they question you at all.
Yep. So true. Yeah. That makes, I'm trying to think of what the quote is. I'm going to butcher it probably, but it's like, people don't believe what you say or something, but they need to believe that you believe what you're saying.
Yes. Yes.
And that to me is like, that sums up this whole commission thing. They have to believe, the client has to believe that the agent believes that they're worth what they're worth and what they're charging, what the value that they're getting is. There's another interesting thing that came from the dinners that I had, and this is just wild to me, but I think it's worth mentioning. I think when I say too, like, agents have to choose what kind of agent they're going to be, a big part of that to me has to do with integrity, because Linda, they were telling me stories of what some agents are doing right now that is like so out of integrity. I mean, one of our agents went on a listing appointment with someone who was in their sphere, who's their client, and they were wanting to sell their house. And they said, we've talked to a couple other people, but like, we want to stick with you. We want you to sell our house. And so she went back to the office to pulled up their address to start to run some comps and look, and it was listed on the MLS by another agent. So she called him back and she's like, hey, I just want to make sure, like, your house is listed. So did you sign something? Like, did you not think that you, and they're like, we didn't sign anything with that person. The person asked us if they could have the weekend to do an off market listing and just see if they could bring us a buyer. And if they could bring us a buyer, would we sell the house? And so we said, sure, if you bring us a buyer, we'll sell the house. The agent, no paperwork signed, no nothing. This is true story, in Columbus, went back and put their house on the MLS for the weekend and had,
oh my God.
Yeah. And my agent was like, you need to call and tell them to, like, that your house is not listed, to take it off the MLS. So she called the agent, and she said he was just like, I'm so sorry, I'll take it down. I'm so sorry. Like, I just wanted to try for the weekend. And she's like, you you could lose your license over that. So point being, like, that was just one of multiple stories that they were sharing at the dinners, where I think agents, you know, when people get desperate, they do desperate things. And I think there's just going to be a lot of like, we're going to have to watch people and make sure everybody's really staying in integrity and doing the right thing. Because I think there's just going to be a lot of people who are just going to get crazy. That's like the wild west.
And that's an opportunity to train our agent to how you handle that matters.
Yes.
You know, don't automatically assume that they're unethical. Maybe they didn't know any better.
Yeah.
But the way you handle how you present that to them could make a difference, number one, to that person and how they do moving forward and your relationship with that person.
Yeah.
Right.
She said the first thing he said was, "Are you going to report me?" And she was like, "Look, I'm not going to report you, but I just want to make sure that, you know, I can help teach you in this moment, or like that we're on the same page." Because she's, you know, she said that she was like, "I felt like I tried to handle it as best as I could," but she said, "But I was so shocked at the same time." But that's a great point. It is going to be a great opportunity for our agents and for other agents who are of high integrity to just seek first to understand. And, you know, I think there's just going to be a lot of agents that are going to do whatever they can to get a deal.
Yeah. Well, or come from curiosity. Maybe he just didn't know that wasn't okay. I mean, it could have been, right? You know, just lack of training or no one at his office to guide him or tell him or whatever. So, yeah, I think we'll see a lot of kind of weird stuff for a while. I think it'll settle down. And again, I think it really is no different than when the market shifts. Great agents flourish and weak agents, you know, just completely go out. But the first person that has to believe the value is there is the agent. And if they don't believe their value's there, and, you know, I think sometimes we feel like we have to have answers. I think we have to have great questions.
Yeah,
you know,
love that.
Can I explain to you, you know, I'm sure you've heard, let's talk about what the changes are and what your options are. And then I'll let you choose, right? Good. And that, by the way, it's an intelligence test too, and an integrity test. If that person says, well, I'm not paying them anything, ask them, do you really understand what that might mean for your property? You know, and make sure that because I don't think or you may decide, gosh, do I want to work with somebody like this who is just out to, you know, make sure nobody makes any money? I don't think so. You know, so, but you got to be willing to ask questions first and say, well, help me see why you feel like that would be an advantage for you. Yeah. What do you think you would gain from doing that? I mean, I think you just have to talk them through it. And I think that's where most people get nervous. Yeah. They're afraid they're not going to, you know, but I think what I've learned in many, many years of doing this is somebody who won't follow my agenda has their own agenda. And that agenda never has anything to do with me getting paid.
Yeah. Yep.
And I'd rather know that one day into working with them than 360 days into working with them.
So true. Yeah.
After they've wore me out, right, and used me up. So I think a lot of that's going to come with just, again, them having confidence, and okay if they lose somebody.
Yeah.
You know, because you may spend a lot of time on somebody who's, you know, not in it for a win-win situation and waste a lot of time when you could be going out and looking for someone else who understands, well, yeah, I want as many people to want to buy my house as possible. And how do I do that? I still get to say what price I accept.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, so interesting. Yeah. Well, I also am noticing on a few of my calls, some of the agents are getting tireder, like they're a little more exhausted. And so it's causing them to look up and say, what are my options? What part of this business do I love? What part do I not love? And how could I collaborate or work with someone else who loves the pieces I don't? So I always say if it's not your unique ability, you can either delegate it, you can collaborate with someone else who has that as a service, or you can, you know, get an outside source that can do it. You got to figure out something. If it's an important key part of the role, so you either have to stand up and say, if I'm going to be a great listing agent, I'm going to master these conversations. And no, it's not fun. The other seemed a lot easier to take a listing and it sell that afternoon, but you're not going to be in this business long term and see that kind of market all the time. And once you have these skills, you never have to learn them again. I mean, I could go out on a listing appointment right now and just never skip a beat because I've lived in that market most of my career. And it doesn't bother me at all. Oh, now on the front end, was it hard? Yeah, because I'm thinking, gosh, I got to get better at this. You know, I got to learn what to say. And so I think you have to decide, who are you? Are you going to lean into it because you're in this business for a career, not just a good market?
Yep.
Or what are your options if that's not the case?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I noticed everybody's tired. I mean, they even, even the top ones that I had dinner with, they were tired. But another thing that I noticed with them too, like they're still making up, like one of them, she came and she's like, I staged a house until 1 o'clock in the morning last night because I had to get it on. Like I'm so tired. I'm so exhausted today. So they're doing the work, but I was also really proud of them too, because they're still like taking them time. They believe in leverage enough so that they can go on a vacation, or if they are getting really tired or burnt out, like they can take a weekend. And Lori Lynn was like, I'm taking the weekend off because my daughter's best friend's getting married tomorrow. And so we're going to be doing wedding stuff and celebrating. And she's like, as busy as we are, like, I want to be present and focus on the wedding. So I feel like they know, like, they're busy in the work, but they know their priorities, and they can tell when they're getting tired, like, okay, I need to refuel I need to do something that I can refuel. And, I just remember the years and years, I never did that. All I did was just grind and work. And so I think as you the longer that you're in it, especially if you're starting to feel tired or burn out, like you do have to make yourself get to where you're like, okay, I'm going to recharge for the weekend or do something fun, or, zip down to Florida for 3 or 4 days and come back, like just to get some energy back in you.
Well, and I think too, this is a great message for leaders to understand, Dana, that you might just need to spend some time and let them vent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And let them talk to each other. You don't have to go to that dinner having all the answers. You have to go to that dinner and put the group together, and they will feel better after it because, number one, you may be able to contribute some things that would help, but they will help each other, and they'll feel better just getting to talk to somebody else who's experiencing it.
That's exactly what, when we left Columbus, they were like, we're so glad we did this because we just got to talk to each other and see what each other's doing. And so one of them said, like, I'm just glad, it makes me feel better to hear that crazy story because my story wasn't as crazy. I mean, you're exactly right. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah. One other idea I heard today from someone that I talked to, and this is kind of interesting, and this is something that we kind of batted around in our mastermind group many, many years ago, is, thinking about like a kind of like additional incomes and opportunities. And this agent was actually creating a concierge service. And so it was, and this sticks in my mind. I went to Deansdale not too long ago, and one of the things he said that just struck me was, I want to live in my house as if I don't own it.
Yeah.
And then I realized there's 2 houses that we own, one in California and one in Montana. We have managers of those houses.
That's right. Yeah.
And we pay them a big chunk of money every year to manage that house because we don't want the headache of doing it long distance.
Yep.
So when I listened to her idea, I said, one of the things we may all come up with is a menu of different services that are add-on additional opportunities that there may be people out there that would love, if they know you and trust you already, for you to take on extra. Instead of staging that house at 1 o'clock at night for free, that's an additional concierge service.
Totally. Yeah. Are you talking about Megan? Was that Megan?
No, actually it wasn't. It was,
okay.
Yeah, it was Rachel that was in our Leadership Academy.
Okay, well, because Megan Dusing, that was in your Leadership Academy that I coached too, she just did the same thing. She put together a whole concierge package, and I actually shared hers with my offices last week. And it's so good, Linda. I mean, I'm like, Megan, you're going to serve more and make more money probably, because you're being creative. Like that was the last thing that I wrote down, that these agents came up that I took away from being with these agents. Like they're getting creative. They're doing stuff out of the box. And Megan is saying, hey, for, this percentage, which is typically a bump up from what she normally charges, you get a painter for a half a day and a handyman for a half a day and a this for a half a day. Or at this one, you get the ABCD. And then if you don't want anything, it's this. And so we used to do that 15 years ago, actually. And, I think getting creative like that and coming back, I mean, that's going to be the people like that Gary says that will take market share, that they won't lose it because they're providing more. And sometimes, like you just said, people are willing to pay for it because they don't want to do it.
Yeah. And we have to get out of the mindset as realtors that they don't want to pay for it.
That's right.
Because we're cheating them of a service that they might very much be interested in.
Yep.
Because we have a limiting belief in our own head that someone wouldn't, that they won't pay it.
Yeah. So true.
Yeah. So I'm like you, I'm loving these calls because I'm learning so much about what's going on in the field, what's
Yeah.
going on. And it's a couple of them actually I've been able to really help them with the situation, which has been awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm going to keep doing these calls because it's one of those things, like you said, I think, God, why didn't I do this sooner?
Yeah.
What was I thinking, But yeah, you learn a lot by getting on the ground level of what's going on. And you also, get some ideas from other people that you can share with one of them on maybe that something might help them. So love your idea of taking them to lunch or breakfast or doing something.
Yeah.
And there's the value of a community like that.
Yeah. And honestly, like I wanted it to be nice for them. Like we went to like one of the nicest restaurants and like I brought them a nice little gift. And I felt like, and this is just me personally before, but sometimes we get so caught up in like, I don't know, just other things that like just spending time with somebody is so, I mean, it makes such an impact. It was impactful for me. I learned a ton from them and I was supposed to be there to treat them, but it's just the time together was so good.
Yeah. Yeah. It's one of those things that you go, duh, I should have done this a long time ago. Yeah. And honestly, I have kind of enlisted my team and gave them a list of who I feel like I need to communicate more with or do certain things with that I mean well. I just never get around to it because my follow through is a 2.
Yeah, same.
Now, I know you'd look at my life and think it's not, it's more.
Yeah.
But I have a million ideas, but I follow through with a few of them, and the few of them that I follow through with matter.
Yeah.
But there are certain ones that I've wanted to do it for years. So I just put it on somebody else's plate, honestly. So I, just recently, one of them is, Carrie's been with us 20 something years. And I'm like, how can I not just ever so often take her to lunch?
Yeah.
She loves to go to lunch or bring in lunch or do whatever. And so I just put it on somebody else. I said, you know what? I want to do this. I want to do this on a regular basis. You figure it out.
Yeah. Make the appointment.
Because again, people don't mind being on the receiving dock. I don't mind being on the receiving dock of an appointment. I don't like making them.
That's right. Yeah.
So
true.
So I guess our question to you would be is, who do you need to connect with more of right now? Who could you put a small group together to go to lunch and see what happens from it? Who could you put on a regular call list and touch base with people and see what happens? I mean, I'm just shocked every day at, number one, how appreciative they are that we're having the call. And then number 2, how much value I get out of it.
Yeah, same.
So,
and you know what? This is the last thing I forgot to tell you this, but it's an echo everything you said and add to it. I think there's just a lot of people still that like are struggling or they have stuff going on. And one of my team leaders, their ALC meeting this month, they said, I just felt like I just needed to do a check-in with the ALC and like not do our regular agenda and not talk about the business, just like, hey, how are you? Like, what do you need? And they said of the, I think 7 people or 8 people that were there, 5 of them had either just had a loss, they had lost someone, or they were going through losing someone. Like it was just like tragedy and sadness in each of their lives right now that was really kind of, impacting their business too, because what is happening in your personal life will always at some point impact your business life. And she said, I was just so glad that I had the instinct to do that because she said they just needed to talk and we just needed to, cry for 30 minutes and help each other. And then, and she said, then we can go back to business another month. But she was like, I just felt like we needed it. So I don't know. I just think, it's just, I love your question. Just like, who do people need to check in with and talk to or put together? And the other question I would add to that too is like, what is your mindset around the changes right now? Are you letting them be a distraction to you, or are you like, they're happening, but I'm head down, like I'm still working hard? Because remember what John Maxwell always teaches us, there's no such thing as a balanced life. There's just seasons. And this is a season that's just going to be, maybe a little bit more difficult than what another season might be.
But, it's kind of like anything else. It may be trying to teach you something that you've been avoiding to do, either leverage yourself, get better at your communication, raise your standards.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do think that anytime we have a challenge, and I'm going to talk about this when I talk about the footsteps of Paul, the comedian that him and his wife, it's funny how marriage works. It was so good. But, when you have something keep showing up in your life and rubbing you the wrong way or irritating you or bothering you, there really is something in there that's trying to teach you something about yourself. And it could be that you have needed to learn how to communicate better, period. And if you're going to be a professional, why not now, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's important. And the only other last question, then we'll wrap up here, that I would say is, what is it that you instinctively have known you were supposed to do for a long time and you're not doing? Find a person and hand it off to them.
Yep.
Figure out how you can get on the receiving dock of that, and so that it happens automatically. When those calls come in from my leadership academy, I have to take it. Well, I want to take it, but I'm not going to not answer my phone.
Yeah.
But yet if it was in my lap to make the call, it wasn't happening, or it was happening some and not happening. Well, let's be honest. It wasn't happening at all. So,
but it wasn't happening because you didn't want it to, you wanted it to happen. It just wasn't getting to the finish line.
It wasn't because of my follow through as a 2.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So, I totally understand.
I'm going to own that and I'm going to do something about it. So Dana, thank you. Great conversation today. And remember, if you have not hit the subscribe button, please go ahead and do that now. And the greatest compliment you can pay Dana and I is to pass this podcast along to anybody that you think would benefit from these conversations. If you have a guest, a question, a challenge, an obstacle, or an opportunity that you'd love to bring on the show with Dana and I, be sure and reach out to us at info@everythinglifeinrealestate. And Dana, I guess I'll see you next week.
Sounds good. See you then.
Be sure to subscribe for more business strategies and tactics to inspire you to live an abundant real estate life. Don't forget to rate and review so we can bring you the best content. Find this and other valuable information at everythinglifeandrealestate.com.